The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh white glare across the town hall. Folding chairs creaked as 200 bodies shifted, waiting. The air smelled of old carpet and stale coffee. Samuel Hayes stood at the wooden podium, 72 years pressed into his shoulders. His hands trembled slightly as he unfolded handwritten notes. The microphone squealed feedback. 3 men sat in the front row, legs spread wide, arms crossed. Expensive suits in charcoal and navy. Marcus Brennan, the lead developer, checked his Rolex with theatrical boredom. His associates smirked at each other. Samuel cleared his throat. "The Oak Street Community Center has served this neighborhood for—" "Speak up, Gramps," Brennan interrupted. Laughter rippled through the developers section. Samuel adjusted the microphone. His voice steadied. "For 60 years this center has—" "60 years of nothing," Brennan cut in again. He turned to the council members. "This relic is blocking a $12 million development. Progress doesn't wait for nostalgia." The council chairman banged his gavel weakly. "Mr. Brennan, please." Samuel's jaw tightened. His knuckles whitened against the podium edge. He didn't look at Brennan. He looked directly at the council. "So I'm requesting a 30-day extension to present—" "Your time's up, old man." Brennan stood, buttoning his jacket. The room went silent. "We've been patient enough." Samuel gathered his papers slowly. His hands didn't shake anymore. His eyes met Brennan's for 3 cold seconds. Then he walked toward the exit, back straight, head high. Samuel Hayes had lived in Oak Street for 53 years. The neighborhood knew him as the quiet man who swept the community center steps every morning at 6. Kids called him Mr. Sam. Elders called him Brother Hayes. His office sat on the 2nd floor of the center overlooking the basketball court. Photographs covered one wall. Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall, his wife Eleanor smiling in her nursing uniform. She died 3 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden and complete. The desk still held her reading glasses. Samuel had been someone once. A civil rights attorney who'd argued before appellate courts, who'd defended voting rights and housing discrimination cases. 37 victories. 6 Supreme Court briefs. His name used to appear in law journals, but Eleanor had wanted him to slow down. "You fought long enough," she'd said. "Come home," so he did. He retired at 62 and took over managing the community center her grandfather had founded. No courtrooms, no depositions, just tutoring programs, senior lunches, and Friday night dominoes tournaments. It was peaceful, quiet, exactly what he'd promised her. The center sat on a half-acre lot, red brick and tall windows. Inside, murals covered the walls. Neighborhood children painted their dreams every summer. The gym floor squeaked under sneakers. The library smelled like old paperbacks and lemon polish. This was home. Not just his. Everyone's. Samuel unlocked his office and set his briefcase on the desk. Through the window, he watched teenagers shooting hoops under the outdoor lights. Their laughter drifted up through the spring air. He touched Eleanor's photograph. "They're coming for it," he whispered. The photo didn't answer. It never did, but he could hear her voice anyway. "Then you know what to do." The town council reconvened after a 15-minute recess. Samuel returned to his seat in the back row. Brennan and his associates huddled near the front, whispering and chuckling. Council Chairman Davies cleared his throat. "We'll now vote on the Oak Street development proposal. All in favor of approving the demolition permit?" Brennan leaned forward, confident. "Wait." Samuel stood. His voice carried across the room. "I have a formal objection." Davies sighed. "Mr. Hayes, we've already heard your statement." You heard 30 seconds before Mr. Brennan interrupted. Samuel moved down the aisle, each step deliberate. The center's deed includes historic preservation clauses. Demolition requires environmental review and community impact assessment. Brennan laughed, loud, theatrical, dismissive. "Listen to this guy. You sound like you swallowed a legal dictionary." His associates joined in. "Probably printed it off the internet," one muttered. Samuel reached the podium again. He pulled a folder from his briefcase. City Code 14.7 clearly states, "Nobody cares about codes, old man." Brennan stood addressing the council directly. "This building is falling apart. Look at him, shaking hands, can barely read his own notes. You want someone like this standing in the way of jobs and tax revenue?" Councilwoman Pierce, the only black member, frowned. "Mr. Brennan, that's inappropriate." "It's reality." Brennan spread his hands. "Progress requires tough decisions. This center served its purpose. Time to move on." Samuel's voice dropped lower, colder. "Move on from what exactly?" "From the past." Brennan stepped closer, invading Samuel's space. "From outdated buildings run by outdated people. No offense, Gramps, but your generation had its turn. The room held its breath. Samuel didn't step back." "I see." Davies banged the gavel. "Let's vote." "All in favor?" 4 hands rose. Opposed? Only Pierce raised her hand. Motion passes 4-1. Davies closed his folder. "Demolition permit approved. Mr. Brennan, you may proceed with site preparation." Brennan clapped Samuel on the shoulder. "Nothing personal, old-timer. Just business." Samuel gathered his papers. His hands were steady now. Completely steady. He walked out without looking back. Samuel sat in his car, a 2003 Honda with a crack across the windshield. The parking lot emptied around him. Council members climbed into SUVs, laughing about dinner plans. Brennan's Mercedes pulled out, bass thumping. The dashboard clock read 8:47 p.m. Samuel's hands gripped the steering wheel. Not trembling, gripping, his mind replayed the meeting. Brennan's smirk, the laughter, outdated people, the casual dismissal like swatting a fly. He'd spent 10 years being quiet, Mr. Sam. 10 years sweeping steps and organizing bingo nights. 10 years keeping his head down, honoring Eleanor's wish for peace. But this wasn't peace. This was erasure. Samuel opened his briefcase. Inside lay his bar association card, current despite retirement. 43 years of membership. His law license never expired. He'd kept it active just in case. Eleanor's voice whispered in memory, "Patience isn't weakness, Samuel. It's a weapon. You wait until they're confident. Then you strike." She'd said that in 1987 during the Riverside housing case. He'd waited 6 months while the opposition celebrated their inevitable victory. Then he'd filed a motion that unraveled their entire case in 48 hours. Patience weapon. Samuel pulled out his cell phone. The contacts list scrolled past names he hadn't called in years. Former colleagues, old allies, people who'd fought beside him in courtrooms from Birmingham to Boston. His thumb hovered over one name, Gerald Winters, State Attorney General's office. Not yet. Too soon. Samuel started the engine. He drove home slowly, mind already working. Brennan thought he'd won. That confidence would make him sloppy, and sloppy men made mistakes. Samuel's house was small, a 2-bedroom bungalow with a sagging porch. Inside, bookshelves lined every wall. Legal texts, case law compendiums, civil rights histories. He made tea and sat at the kitchen table. Across from him, Eleanor's chair remained empty. He still set out 2 cups by habit. His mind drifted backward. The Richmond Fair housing case. He was 42, sharp as broken glass, relentless. The opposing counsel was a silver-haired firm partner who called him boy in the hallway. Samuel destroyed him in court. 3 days of cross-examination that exposed systematic discrimination through redlining practices. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. His mentor, Judge Helena Cross, pulled him aside afterward. "You know why you won?" "Evidence," Samuel had said. "No." She smiled. "You won because you stayed calm when they tried to provoke you. Power fears exposure, Samuel, but it fears patient exposure most of all." That lesson carried him through 37 cases. He learned to absorb insults like armor, to let opponents underestimate him, to build cases brick by brick while they celebrated too early. The Supreme Court brief in 1993, the DOJ consultation in 1998. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund Award in 2004. He'd been someone. He'd mattered. Then Eleanor got sick. Not the heart attack, that came later. First, the diabetes diagnosis. The kidney concerns. She needed him home, not traveling to depositions and trials. "Come back to Oak Street," she'd said. "Help me with the center. Let someone else fight for a while." So he did. He hung up his courtroom suits and became Mr. Sam, the kind old man who fixed broken chairs and taught kids chess. It was enough. It had been enough. Until tonight. Samuel walked to his home office. Filing cabinets lined one wall, packed with 40 years of legal archives. He pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside, property records. The original 1923 deed to the Oak Street lot. His grandfather's signature, careful and proud. The land had been in his family for a century. Brennan wasn't just demolishing a building. He was erasing bloodline, legacy, history. Samuel's hands didn't shake anymore. Samuel spent 3 days in his office at the center, door locked. Outside, kids played basketball. Inside, he built a case. The developer's proposal sat spread across his desk. 67 pages of architectural plans, environmental assessments, zoning approvals. He read every word with the precision of his attorney years. Page 19. Environmental Impact Study dated March 2024. Signed by Jenkins. Samuel cross-referenced the city's database. Jenkins Environmental lost their license in 2023 for falsifying reports. The signature was fraudulent. His heart rate didn't spike. It steadied. This was the thread. He pulled property records next. Brennan Development LLC purchased the adjacent lots through a series of shell companies. The paper trail was deliberately tangled. Holding companies registered in Delaware, transfers bouncing through 3 states. But Samuel had spent decades untangling corporate structures. He mapped every connection, every LLC, every hidden owner. One name appeared repeatedly: Victor Chen, city council member who'd voted for demolition, conflict of interest. Buried but traceable. Samuel's fingers flew across his laptop keyboard. Public records requests. Corporate filing searches, campaign finance databases. Each click revealed another crack in Brennan's perfect facade. The zoning approval, rushed through in 8 days instead of the standard 45. Someone paid for speed. The demolition permit approved by an inspector who'd retired 3 months before signing it. Forged signature. The property liens. Brennan had placed fraudulent claims against Samuel's family land, forcing it into distressed status that made acquisition easier. Every document, every signature, every approval illegal. Samuel printed everything. 300 pages of evidence. He organized it into folders, color-coded, cross-referenced. His old litigation instincts took over completely. Outside, the sun set. Inside, Samuel worked through the night. By dawn, he had it. The entire conspiracy, documented and annotated. Bribery, fraud, forgery. Enough to trigger federal investigation. He made 2 copies. One went into his briefcase. The other, Samuel climbed the narrow stairs to the center's attic. Dust-coated old furniture and forgotten supplies. He moved aside a stack of boxes and pried loose a floorboard, underneath a fireproof lockbox he'd installed in 2010. Inside the box, he placed the second copy, wrapped in plastic. He'd learned this lesson in 1989, the Memphis school case. Evidence disappeared from his office 2 days before trial. He'd won anyway because of a hidden backup. Never trust your only copy to where enemies can reach. Samuel locked the box and replaced the floorboard. He descended the stairs as morning light streamed through the center's windows. His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Back off, old man. This is your last warning. Samuel smiled. Let them think they're winning. Samuel requested an emergency council meeting through official channels. Davies tried to dismiss it, but Pierce insisted they honor proper procedure. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening. Samuel arrived early, briefcase in hand. The council chamber felt different now. smaller, less intimidating. He'd argued before federal judges. This was municipal theatre. Brennan swaggered in 20 minutes late, coffee in hand. He saw Samuel and laughed. "Seriously? You're still doing this?" "I have new information," Samuel said calmly. "I bet you do." Brennan dropped into his seat. His associates flanked him like bodyguards. "Let me guess. You found some dusty law on Google?" The council convened. Davies looked annoyed. "Mr. Hayes, you have 5 minutes." Samuel stood. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a single folder. "I've reviewed the development proposal. There are significant irregularities." "Here we go," Brennan muttered. Samuel continued. "The environmental assessment is fraudulent." Jenkins Environmental had no license when this report was signed. Brennan waved dismissively. "Administrative error. We'll get it recertified." The zoning approval was rushed through in 8 days. Standard review is 45. We paid expedite fees. Perfectly legal. Samuel met his eyes. The demolition permit signature belongs to an inspector who retired 3 months before signing. Silence. Brief flickering. Then Brennan laughed, loud and confident. "You're really reaching, old man. These are clerical issues. Nothing that affects the project's legitimacy." Davies nodded. "Mr. Brennan is correct. Minor procedural matters don't invalidate approved permits." Councilman Chen leaned forward. "Mr. Hayes, this feels like desperation." The vote was fair. Samuel didn't push harder. He gathered his papers. "I see. Thank you for your time." Brennan stood as Samuel passed. "Give it up, you lost. Go play checkers with your friends and accept reality." Outside, a reporter waited. "Mr. Hayes, any comment?" "Not yet," Samuel said quietly. He drove home. His briefcase sat beside him, still holding 90% of his evidence. He'd shown them just enough to make them comfortable. Brennan would celebrate tonight. That was the point. Samuel woke at 2 a.m. to glass breaking. He grabbed his phone and rushed downstairs. His car's passenger window was shattered. Safety glass scattered across the driveway. The briefcase was gone. He called the police. They arrived 30 minutes later, bored and skeptical. "Probably kids," the younger officer said. Samuel didn't argue. He filed the report and let them leave. At dawn, he drove to the community center. His office door stood open, lock broken. Filing cabinets yawned empty. Papers scattered across the floor. His computer monitor was cracked. The desk drawers had been rifled through. Every folder, every file, gone. Samuel's phone rang. "Unknown number, you should have listened." The voice was young, confident, muffled slightly. "Drop this now or you lose everything." "Your house, your reputation, everything." The line went dead as Samuel sat in his destroyed office. Sunlight streamed through the windows, indifferent. Outside, kids arrived for morning basketball practice, laughing and shouting. He tried his computer. The hard drive had been wiped. Professional work, not random vandalism. His backup external drive was missing from the desk drawer. Every piece of evidence. Every document, every carefully annotated folder. Gone. Samuel stood slowly. His reflection caught in the cracked monitor. An old man in a worn cardigan alone in a ransacked room. Brennan had won. The evidence was destroyed. No backup, no case, no hope. Samuel's hands trembled now. Not from age, from something else. He walked to the window. Down below, a teenager made a three-pointer. His friends cheered. They didn't know. Couldn't know. In 3 months, this would all be rubble. Samuel touched his wife's photograph on the wall. Her smile, frozen in time, seemed to say something, but he couldn't hear it anymore. The community center felt like a mausoleum at night. Samuel sat alone in the gym, house lights off. Street lamps cast orange shadows through the windows. His phone hadn't rung in 2 days. Former allies suddenly had scheduling conflicts. The local newspaper killed his interview. Even Pierce stopped returning calls. Brennan's power reached everywhere. Samuel had told himself he was fighting for history, for family, for legacy. But sitting here in the silence, those words felt hollow. He was just an old man tilting at towers built from money and connections. The basketball court's paint was chipped. The bleachers needed repair. Maybe Brennan was right. Maybe this place was outdated. Maybe he was too. Samuel walked through the empty halls. Children's artwork lined the walls. Crayon drawings of families, rainbows, dreams. Her 10-year-old's essay about her grandmother hung near the library. She says we come from strong people. Strong people. Samuel stopped at his office door. Still broken, still ransacked. He'd left it that way, unable to face cleaning it. But standing here now, something shifted. Eleanor's voice clear as Sunday morning. They can destroy paper, Samuel. They can't destroy what you carry in your mind. His eyes widened. The attic. The lockbox. The backup copy he'd hidden before the theft. Samuel's hands stopped trembling. His breathing steadied. He wasn't finished. Not yet. Samuel climbed the narrow attic stairs at dawn. Dust motes swirled in the early light. He moved boxes aside, feeling along the floorboards until, there, the loose board lifted. The fireproof lockbox sat underneath, undisturbed. Inside, plastic-wrapped documents, her thumb drive labeled Insurance 2024, and the original 1923 property deed, everything. Complete and perfect. Samuel allowed himself one breath of relief. Then he pulled out his phone and scrolled to a contact he'd avoided calling. Gerald Winters. The phone rang 4 times. Hayes. That you? Gerald's voice was thick with sleep and surprise. I need your help. Sam, I heard what's happening. I wanted to call, but I know. Brennan's reach is wide. Samuel's voice was steel now, but I have evidence. Real evidence. Fraud, forgery, bribery. Federal jurisdiction. Silence. Then, you sure about this? I spent 40 years building cases. I'm sure. Send me what you have. I'll review it. Samuel connected his laptop to the thumb drive. Within minutes, 300 pages of scanned documents uploaded to Gerald's secure server. 2 hours later, Gerald called back. Holy hell, Sam. This is airtight. How'd you get all this? I never stopped being a lawyer. I just stopped advertising it. Gerald laughed. I'm bringing this to the AG today. We'll need you to testify. You ready for that? Samuel looked around the attic. Boxes of old programs, photographs of 50 years of community. I'm ready. One more thing, Gerald said. We're calling an emergency public hearing. Maximum exposure. Press, investigators, everyone. Brennan won't see it coming. When? Friday, 3 days. Can you hold until then? Samuel thought of Eleanor, of his grandfather's signature on century-old paper. I've held for 72 years. 3 more days is nothing. He descended from the attic carrying the lockbox. Outside, morning light painted the basketball court gold. The kids were coming back. Friday arrived cold and clear. The town hall filled by 6 p.m. Reporters, cameras, community members, state investigators in dark suits standing near the exits. Samuel sat in the front row now. Beside him, Gerald Winters in a pressed royal blue suit. On Gerald's other side, Assistant Attorney General Patricia Voss, stone-faced and ready. Brennan arrived late, confused by the crowd. His associates looked nervous. Chen, the compromised councilman, was conspicuously absent. Davies banged the gavel. This emergency hearing addresses allegations regarding the Oak Street development. Mr. Winters, you have the floor. Gerald stood. Thank you, Chairman. We're here because systematic fraud has been committed against this community, and Mr. Samuel Hayes specifically. Brennan shot upright. This is absurd. Who authorized this circus? The Attorney General's office. Gerald's voice was ice. Mr. Hayes, please approach. Samuel walked to the podium. No trembling now. No hesitation, he pressed a button. The projector screen lit up with documents. This is the environmental report submitted by Brennan Development. Samuel's courtroom voice returned, clear, commanding, precise. Signed by Jenkins Environmental Consulting. This company lost its license in August 2023 for falsifying data. The signature is forged, Brennan stood. That's a clerical error. We can explain. This is the zoning approval. Next slide. Rushed through in 8 days, instead of the required 45. Approved by Councilman Victor Chen, who appears in these corporate filings as a hidden partner in Brennan's shell companies. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters scribbled frantically, "Lies!" Brennan's face flushed. "You fabricated this." Samuel didn't pause. "This is the demolition permit, signed by Inspector Richard Torres. The signature is dated February 14th. Inspector Torres retired December 8th of last year. Someone forged his name 3 months after his retirement. The screen showed side-by-side signature comparisons, different pen pressure, different loops, obviously fake. And finally, Samuel's voice dropped lower, harder. "These are the fraudulent liens placed against my family's property. Property my grandfather purchased in 1923. Liens fabricated to force the land into distressed status, making acquisition easier." He turned to face Brennan directly. "You tried to steal a century of my family's legacy through forgery and bribery. You mocked me as an old man with shaking hands. You threatened me. You destroyed my office." Brennan's associates were already standing, moving toward the doors. State investigators blocked their path. "This is all circumstantial." Brennan's voice cracked. "You can't prove I personally—" Samuel pressed the button again. Audio recording played through the speakers. Brennan's voice. "Make sure Hayes gets the message. Scare him. Break something if you have to." Another voice. "What if he goes to the cops?" "Brennan? He won't. He's just some old man playing lawyer. Nobody takes him seriously." The recording stopped. The silence was absolute. Patricia Voss stood. "Marcus Brennan, you're under arrest for fraud, bribery, conspiracy, and witness intimidation. Gentlemen, take him." Brennan stumbled backward. Wait. We can negotiate. I can fix this. I'll withdraw the proposal. You're begging now." Samuel's voice cut through the chaos. "That's interesting. You said my time was up. You said I was outdated. You told me to know my place." Brennan's knees buckled. He grabbed the table for support. "Please, I didn't know who you were. I made mistakes." "I'm sorry." Samuel stepped closer. "My grandfather built that center with his own hands after working double shifts for 30 years. My wife kept it running when this neighborhood had nothing else. You tried to erase that with paperwork and contempt." 2 investigators cuffed Brennan. He was crying now, mascara of arrogance running down his face. "Your place," Samuel said quietly, "is in a courtroom." As the defendant this time, they led Brennan out. His associates followed in handcuffs. Davies and 2 other council members were escorted out for questioning. The room erupted. Cheers, questions, camera flashes. Samuel gathered his papers. Gerald clapped his shoulder. "You still got it, counselor." "I never lost it," Samuel said. "I just put it away for a while." 3 months later, Samuel stood on the community center's front steps. Fresh paint gleamed white. New windows sparkled in autumn sunlight. A construction crew finished installing updated wiring while preserving the original architecture. The city had issued a formal apology. Brennan Development was liquidated to pay restitution. The Oak Street Community Center received landmark protection status and $2 million in renovation funding. Brennan himself was awaiting trial. His empire collapsed. Chen and 3 other council members resigned. Federal investigations were ongoing. But Samuel wasn't thinking about them. He watched children pour through the doors for after-school programs. Their laughter echoed off the restored brick. Inside, the library had doubled in size. The gym floor shone. New computers filled a technology lab. A reporter approached, young woman with a notepad. "Mr. Hayes, how does it feel to win?" Samuel considered. "It feels like fulfilling a promise." "To your wife?" "To everyone who came before, and everyone who comes after." The reporter glanced at her notes. "People are calling you a hero. But you stayed so quiet for so long. Why speak up now?" "I never stopped speaking," Samuel smiled. "I just learned when to whisper and when to shout." Inside the center, a new brass plaque hung beside Eleanor's photograph. Hayes Family Community Center, protected historic landmark. S2 1923, his grandfather's dream. Eleanor's passion. His legacy, safe. Samuel walked inside. Kids called out greetings. "Hey, Mr. Sam." A girl hugged his waist. He helped a teenager with algebra homework. He swept the front steps, same as always. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. That night, alone in his office, Samuel placed the original property deed back in its frame. His grandfather's signature caught the lamplight. "We held the line," Samuel whispered to the empty room. Eleanor's photograph smiled back. This time he could hear her voice clearly. "I never doubted you would." Samuel locked the community center doors at 9 p.m. Street lamps cast long shadows across the basketball court. Somewhere in the distance a siren wailed. He thought about Brennan's final moments in that town hall, the begging, the tears, the collapse of confidence into terror. There was no satisfaction in another man's destruction, but there was peace in justice. Power doesn't fear anger. Angry people are predictable, easy to dismiss. Power fears preparation. It fears patience. It fears the quiet ones who remember everything and forget nothing. They'd seen an old man with trembling hands. They never saw the attorney who dismantled corrupt systems for 40 years. They never imagined the archives hidden in attics and lockboxes. They mistook silence for surrender. Samuel walked to his car. The night air was cool. Above, stars pierced the darkness, indifferent and eternal. His grandfather had taught him. Build something that lasts longer than your anger. Eleanor had taught him. Fight when fighting matters. Rest when rest restores. Now he taught the next generation, dignity isn't weakness. It's the armor you wear when preparing for war. Samuel drove home slowly. Tomorrow more kids would fill the center. More elders would gather for lunch. More dreams would be painted on walls that almost became rubble, because one old man refused to be erased, because justice doesn't shout. It accumulates, line by line, document by document, truth by truth, and when it finally speaks, the room doesn't just listen, it remembers.